Hi, everybody, and welcome back to the RHAP B&B for the final episode of Survivor 47. My name is Mike Bloom. Yes, call it finale part 2, call it episode 14, call it a comeback, if you will, when it comes to Sam's fire-making skills. But regardless, we have reached the end of the road here as Survivor 47 and 2024 in Survivor. A very strong year comes to a close with a very strong winner, a record-tying winner, and we are here to break it all down. Of course, I am joined by someone who is always a gift to me, and I'm not just saying that because she is festooned with greenery behind her. It is Liana Boris. Hi, Liana.
Hi, Mike. I can't believe we're here. It was a fun season, maybe a little bit of a foregone conclusion in the actual finale, but I still think there's a decent amount of stuff to talk about. We get some sassy Jeff in the reunion, so I'm all here for it.
A final foregone conclusion. Yes, in this 20-minute reunion. And I would imagine this podcast is probably going to last at least 3 times as long as the after show. But regardless, here's a man that I would gladly bring champagne over to and toast to his success, considering that he has made it through election season and a Survivor season. He is here in one piece. So excited to welcome back, of course, the famous face behind the iconic Washington Post TikTok, the great Dave Jorgensen.
Wow. Thank you, Mike. This should be, you really should just intro me for everything I've ever done. If I walk out of the bathroom, here he comes.
Actually, you know what? Maybe you provide another venture for me. I am on Cameo for a low price. People, if you want to pay me, I will write effusive praise for you that you will have on recorded record that you can play every time you enter a room like you're the king of goddamn England.
I think that's the trick on Cameo too, is if you're able to like really utter all the things they gave you at once in like one breath, and you're really good at that. You just kind of put it all out there at once. So I'm just gonna start requesting cameos just for you, but they're for me.
Thank you. Yeah, see, I'm gonna rise in the rankings. Screw you, Survivor 47 cast. I'm gonna beat you all at the end of the day.
They'll look, it'll be one review, and it's just me reviewing over and over again. This was great. 5 stars.
Listen, I've had much worse people posting consistent comments than me. Happy to be on the positive side for once. Well, let's talk about, Dave, if you're on the positive side of Survivor 47. All is said and done at this point. I'm sure even in the week between, again, depending on, to Liana's point, how foregone or final foregone conclusion this season was, people have been looking back on Survivor 47 as it compares to the new era, Rachel as she compares to the other winners. In fact, that will be invoked in the final tribal council before she has even won the game. Dave, what did you think about Survivor 47 overall?
So glad you asked that, Mike. And yes, I did rehearse a little bit of this answer
Yes.
early on.
I mean, it's very final tribal council like. You provide
Yes.
your own sort of straw man arguments ahead of time as to how you'd answer them. So it's very appropriate for day 26.
And here's why my opinion is better than Rachel's. No, yeah, no, I really thought it was one of the, as a lot of people, I think one of the better just kind of altogether seasons of the new era. I do think, in the end, the Andy storyline is what we'll remember the most, kind of Andy Genevieve. Rachel's a great winner. I'm not taking that away from her, but I think Andy just took up so much of that space, but in a way where it was really interesting. And I think what I care most about, and I think I've even said a couple times on B&B, is like new archetypes. I really like when there's a new type of person we meet after 47 seasons. And I felt like Andy was that. I know there was that joking of like, he's and that Owen and Austin actively participated in of like their new archetype, whatever. But I thought Andy brought so much from literally episode 1 to the point where the fact that he could eclipse John Lovett as like the character of the season is like, we all forgot. We keep forgetting. I forget all the time until they showed the intro, the finale episode with everyone in it. I was like, oh yeah, John Lovett was there. And so I think that it's got a lot of great moments, obviously Operation Italy, all the good stuff, but I really want to break down with you all to the extent that we can, like why each one in the final 3 was really like individually different and unique than what we've seen before as well. Because I think that's also true with Sam, Sue, and Rachel. So yeah, loved it overall. I would say my top 3 of the new era.
Ooh,
Yes.
I don't know if I want to pry too much into the full list, but who's alongside it or topping it?
So I really loved 46, but 45 and 44 for some reason I think I just really like Jam as a winner and D as a winner, and that's kind of the trend in the new era is like I can't remember the numbers, but I can remember who won. And when I think back, those are the ones I remember super well. And it's just, they're also very rewatchable. That's another part of it. If you can rewatch it and really like enjoy it a second time and notice new things a second time, I think those are two that like really just get better with each rewatch. For me.
Yeah, so from your perspective, we're on a hot streak right now. I know
100%.
there's been a lot of talk as to like, is 45 through 47 one of the most consistent 3-season stretches, not only that we've had in quite some time, but maybe we've ever had. You would add 44 to that. Yeah. We'll see how 48 ends up shaping up as well. But Liana, again, we ourselves were prognosticating a lot last week, even of like, how does this season get looked at? How does Rachel get looked at if and when she wins? Now that the check has officially been signed, at least I hope that it is. Hopefully they got it in before the holidays. How are you looking back on this? How does 47 rate for you right in the moment?
I really enjoyed the season, and I don't know if this is a consequence of Survivor kind of figuring out what the new era looks like, and now they've been able to try a few things, see what works, see what doesn't. I think there's still some finagling that needs to be done, but maybe that's why sort of these more recent seasons have felt, okay, we're finding our stride here. I love the comparison to 45 because I think that that is very apt. I've also seen a lot of comparisons with Dee versus Rachel. So I think that those sort of parallel in a lot of people's minds. And part of the reason for that, for me, and Dave, I'm happy you brought this up, but for the big characters, like it really felt like 45 and 47 both had really unique, well-defined characters. And from, Andy to Rome to Genevieve to Sam, I mean, even it just felt like everybody really got their own unique story, and it didn't feel like there was necessarily sort of the cookie cutterness of it all. And I think that 45 also had a very similar energy, and with Dee's and Drew's and Austin's and all of that, it just made it really fun, unique, and easily watchable.
Now, do you think that comes at least partially due to the 90 minutes that we are giving more time, and that honestly, we may have found a new era within the new era, that 45 has now sort of begun this, okay, I still continue to say that casting is the strongest part of the new era, and now we're really getting to know these people just due to the fact that we're getting 1.5 times the material. And Survivor 47 is, by airtime's perspective, the longest season in Survivor history. This is the most amount of airtime we have gotten out of any season in Survivor history.
I have a bit of a hot take on that. So I like 90-minute episodes. I do. And I agree with your era within an era inception, 45, 90-minute, whatever. But I think that I'm really looking forward to the day, and sorry to cable, sorry to CBS, when it's kind of all streaming, because that would make it less about how many commercials do we have to fit in? How do we have to fit this slot for the next hour and a half? And there could be episodes like, I want to say it was episode 9 or 10 this season. There was one episode where I was like, this didn't need to be 90 minutes.
I remember that the Kyle Boot episode was one that I know, Liana, you and I were both like, not this could have been an email, but like we could have gotten the fun saw trap. We could have gotten Kyle being beaten, and that's pretty much all that was necessary for the episode.
Yeah. And so when you don't have the constraints either direction, it has to be this short or has to be this long, I think that does free it up a little bit to like, okay, let's include this scene, but we don't, but sorry to you, Kyle, that's enough, we got it.
Sorry for you.
Sorry for you.
No, that's a
Leon,
great
also,
point, right?
By the way, maybe it's the holiday spirit, but I love how you said that, like, and also with you. Is that Jeff's,
and also
is that Jeff's little statement?
Yeah. Sure.
Well, that's kind of the sanctuary where good things happen, right? That's the call and response, like the sanctuary where good things happen.
If I'm ever on Survivor, I'm gonna start I'm just gonna like really treat it like a holy place. pray to the people.
You'll be treated to
bow before you enter.
You'll be treated to a communion wafer. As much wine as you want to drink.
I've been craving communion out here.
I mean, Gabe did get down on his knees for cookies and cream cake. That's all I'm saying.
Yeah, sponsored by Applebee's.
Yeah, and there's Christmas Day and Easter Day at the sanctuary, which means all the cast members come back, but you don't see them other times at the sanctuary. Yeah. Okay. Good.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. I think that that's a really great point, because if you let the editors tell the story, right? What's the story? Tell it in the best way possible with all the footage you have. So maybe one week it's an hour, maybe the next week it's only 45 minutes, because that's the story that the editors want to tell. So that's sort of, compressing it or expanding it potentially. And we feel that, I think, even a little bit with this, right? With the 4-hour 2-part finale, where we're now sort of taking things and having to expand them out. I think that the editors did a good job in this episode of not making it feel too boring. For example, I love that they did the Fallen Comrades segment intertwined with the jury thoughts. I thought that was very cool. But certainly there were moments where, you know, could have been a bit tighter.
Yeah, when we get the Jeff yet again doing the Wunner walk and talk intro of, okay, here's what happened last week, into the previously on, into the opening credits, into every one of the final four being like, all right, this is where we're standing. And then the next day, we're going to get the final three talking about it. I mean, it is really interestingly paced. What's a pace that this is the shortest after show ever. And like, I know that people can really take or leave the after show. Yeah, I think to Dave's point, for some, it might have been like, all right, this is like a nice way to kind of kill it off slowly, is just dedicate less and less time to it. But this is pretty wild that in a finale that only had final four fire making and the jury vote, you would think that they'd actually dedicate more time to the after show. But we got basically 20 minutes and it was 3 segments. It was checking in with the finalists and talking about Andy's, you know, Zero to Hero storyline. It was going around the jury and talking about not even their individual stories, but these random questions like, Genevieve, what do players have to learn about how to blindside somebody? And then the Survivor 48 preview. So it was, it might honestly beat out Triple H as like the shortest after show ever, but it just led to this very interesting way they paced everything out, despite knowing, we know now that like Jeff was informed out there that CBS wanted an extra episode. And so they very much planned the end game around this structure, knowing that they were going to have that extra installment.
Is that, I'm sorry, that's so funny that he was informed out there. So he's like, okay, I have an idea. I'm going to try to walk this whole, like the tribal council. I just watched the whole time I'm watching that as someone who like is in the media. I'm like, man, he did that for him. He wanted to prove that he could do that. And I get it. Like, if I can do one take, that's amazing. But like, no one cares. We saw Goodfellas. We saw the one. We don't care. I just cut around it. That was for him. With all respect, cast me. But yeah.
Okay. That is actually good to know that he was informed out there, because I thought that maybe there was a universe where he had to go back and refilm that in some capacity.
The biggest, I think, canary in the coal mine as to the fact that they knew it would be split out like this is the final immunity challenge, actually. Because if you think about it, if you look at the last 2 immunity challenges of this season, usually, in terms of what these challenges are all about, they're usually swapped. The final 5 is usually the big obstacle course into the puzzle. In fact, this was quite literally the same location where we had the controversial Liz helps Kenzie beat Maria challenge. And then the final 4 is almost always, especially over the past 10 seasons, the balance, dexterity, hand-eye coordination test, like a simple yet complicated task. But I'm pretty sure they talked about on Fire that because they knew the episode was going to be split up, they wanted like a big spectacle to finish things off, knowing it would be the only challenge in the episode. And so they decided to make that swap in the moment.
Can I give my after show hot and I'll stop saying hot take after this. My on fire take.
Hot take.
Yes, I think I get it. It sounds like, I mean, we can ascertain that they can't afford the reunion show, or CBS is like, we don't want to send everyone out and like and build this stage for 45 minutes so that we can all be awkward on live TV. So if that's off the table and we have to film it while they're on the island, can we wait a day? Can they just can it just be the next day before they go on the plane, and maybe in daylight, maybe be like, here's tribal council during the day. By the way, it looks like this. I don't know, like, or go to one of their campsites and make. I think no one that I know likes the raw nature that people are in. Luckily, like Sam and Sue in this season seemed okay, but I don't like watching that. It doesn't make me happy. I don't like. I get my what's it called?
Schadenfreude, yeah.
I get that from like other parts of the show. I don't need it here at the reunion. It's over. I want to celebrate them. So I just think they have to like give them a moment to just think about it. And because I do think the one thing I agree with Jeff is there is value to the idea that like they haven't been influenced by social media or media yet
before they become influencers.
Exactly. And yes, like I would have liked to see more Saul, but I mean, if they just shoot for enough hours, they have the footage there where they ask Saul a question. Like, I don't care about the question of Saul, you're really popular on Twitter now. What do you think about that? I never liked that in the reunion show. I think there's a little bit of the other part of this
Yeah,
hot
but
take is the
you
reunion
don't
show
want
always sucks. By the way,
you
was
don't
never
want
good.
Saul to like really make the most out of the vest meme and just like come out wearing only a vest and nothing else on his body. To
But
just
that's
be
what social
completely
media is
naked.
for. I've been getting that. I've
Oh.
been injecting that in my veins for weeks now. He's already been doing it with his. So I just like I'll take that trade off, but I also just think people forgot that the reunion show kind of was always a bummer anyway. I never loved it. Am I alone in that? Am I?
No, I mean, it is interesting, yeah, that I think it's always about you don't know what you've got till it's gone,
Right,
right? Like,
right.
Joni Mitchell sang about, oh, where are the days of Mayim Bialik being asked a question in the audience, and Terry
Mhm.
Bradshaw talking about how Jimmy Johnson really sucked at Survivor. Like,
Right.
there were complaints about it in the moment. There are complaints about it now. I still would like it, or like even the happy medium of doing like a little bit of a check-in, like,
Right.
a couple days later, or even just like hey, it's been a month since you've come back. How's everything going? Like, I get Jeff's feeling about we want this raw in the moment experience. Just felt in this case that kind of like shirked what they liked it in favor of, yeah, we'll just kind of clip together a quote unquote best of sequence of 3 segments.
But and maybe you don't know. No, like, does he really want the Raw, or is he just trying to sell it like he sells at 26 days? I don't. I'm not convinced. I think Jeff is the 19th player out there, and he's playing us.
There's a universe where I would love to hear Genevieve have to answer, how does it feel to be mother? But outside of that, I do understand what you're saying, that look, what type of information would I want to hear? I kind of want to hear the 3 finalists reflect and talk to the jury and then come back and give their takes, right?
Yeah.
Because it's always going to be the same. Well, it's going to be one of 2 reactions, I feel like, from a losing finalist. It's either like they're clearly upset and trying to keep it together, or it's like, oh yeah, good game, Rachel, yada, yada, yada. That's so boring. You know what I mean? Like, there's nothing. What else are we getting? Like, what's the unique thing? And I think for people like Andy, I'm happy that we did spend time on his segment, because at least he had a couple days outside of the game to really reflect upon that journey, and to hear that, him and Caroline had a whole like deep dive and talked about everything, like, but that's because he had that time, whereas the final 3, didn't get that same opportunity.
Yeah. And what I will say as well is that, again, to Liana's point, I think despite the fact that maybe about 20 minutes in, at least from my perspective, when Rachel won the immunity challenge, I had a very good feeling that things were pretty much set in stone. There was a little bit of a shaking to the bedrock, at least, and this really was the forged in fire, quite literally, fate of Sam, who, some people were on and off. I know Rob was certainly trying to really step in there, being like, well, Sam does have some jury votes, and depending on how he gets there, especially if Rachel's not there, that didn't end up not being the case. But for him to essentially do the 28-3 of fire making in how he is able to come back versus Teeny, and then seemingly, and I think speaking towards being one of the only broadcasters in this season to actually make it to the end of the game, using that experience to put together what seemed to be, and was agreed upon even in the after show, is like a pretty dang good losing effort at Final Tribal Council. It at least made for, I think, a more entertaining and intriguing episode than we may have thought on paper. I still did think that like Rachel's body of work was going to speak for itself, and it's not like she really fumbled the ball massively at Tribal Council. It was more so kind of an argument of, okay, which gameplay style do you favor more in terms of a jury vote? But I'll give it to Sam for keeping it pretty interesting for the 2 hours.
Yeah, he was. Here's the thing with Sam, for me personally, specifically, the whole season, as someone who's desperate to get on the show, I had the opposite effect of Teeny, where I was like, oh, I love Sam. That's how I would play. Like I was doing the like, and the way he answers questions, like I can't think of a specific example right now, but he was so good. Sometimes I try to play and like pause and like, how will I answer this question from Jeff? And he would do like that or a better version of it. And I just thought this guy is so, especially for being 24, like just so impressive in how he articulates his thoughts and how he doesn't hurt other people's feelings. He's very thoughtful. Like even winning the fire, the way he was able to collect himself really relatively quickly to like, say like to comfort Teeny.
Oh man, congratulations
on sucking. No, but no, Teeny's great, but I congratulations on the win, I guess. But I just thought he was played so well, and like, and yeah, Rachel's game was better, but if I were out there and I knew I was probably going to lose, like that's the best thing. That's pretty like the best you can do out there for a game that's not going to win in the jury.
I felt like Sam's. I mean, what I feel never comes across well in Final Tribal Council is when the final three start talking to each other, because it always just sounds like sibling quabbling over little things. Like, it just comes across as so like
juvenile.
Be better. Yeah, exactly. Be over it. So, like when Rachel drops the bomb about her sneaking up into the convo, and then Sam tries to argue, it's like, just let her have that. Just let her have that.
I don't know.
On yourself. Big up your own game.
I mean, I get it from his perspective, where it was find a way to find a way. I mean, quite literally from his dietary perspectives, his POV this entire season was try everything. And so it does make sense. I mean, I talked about this. I was on the Survivor Now podcast this past weekend, and they asked, like, if you're a Sue, if you know that you're a guarantee, if you get the sense that you're a 0 vote finalist, that you drop your own bomb and it basically diffuses itself within the first, like the fuse ends up getting snuffed out. Sam reacted. Sam's not voting though.
I think he was the only one to react, but I assume they talked about it at Ponderosa. But anyway, sorry, Mike.
Yeah, but I think that people were asking, okay, can you do anything? And I would say, just let your interrupting thoughts go wild. If you are not being given the space, take that space and hold it, as it were. Like, you come in and you say, that's a great answer that Rachel gave. To piggyback off of that, let me talk about how then she came back to me and told me what was happening, and then I told her about my idol. Like, it's kind of self-absorbed to say, and obviously not the most social thing to do in an inherently social game, but like, if they're giving you nothing, you gotta start doing something. Make stuff out of thin air and just try to bring things back to yourself so that you stay in the conversation. So, as much of a stretch as things might be, to your point, Sam responding to that, Rachel sticking up by being like, yeah, well, that was all a farce. We were actually just trying to bring Teeny in. And Rachel's like, yeah, you had the little cardboard mirror set up so that you knew that I was behind you the entire time. Yep, sure, Sam. Yeah. It's all an act. You're just continuing that legendary performance in Operation Italy. I don't know. I like it. Like, continue to bring these performative aspects in and make it as rude as hell.
Yeah, it does need some rudeness, because also if it's not rude, then we just are just walking towards a Rachel win without any kind of conflict. We need some conflict, right?
Yeah. I mean, I think obviously for Sue and Sam, it's sort of two different. I think those are so different. I mean, when everybody's asking Rachel, what about this? Oh, okay, now I want to hear Sam. And then crickets for Sue, until you have Caroline being like, yeah, hey, can we ask Sue that question also? And Sue's just kind of sitting there the whole time, just sort of waiting. But at least I guess it's a little bit better than Troyzan, because didn't Troyzan during Game Changers just be like, well, guess I'm third place?
It's interesting, because like I'm not going to say he quit. He kind of like realized he was losing and invoked his own Little League mercy rule of being like, look, I know I'm not getting any votes, so I just want to thank everybody for giving me the chance to get to the final three. This is something I've dreamed about doing for years at this point, so I will recuse myself from the testimony. I'm just going to sit back here. If you want to start bringing out the Ponderosa menu items at this point, I'm basically already there mentally speaking. Let's watch Brad and Sarah really battle it out.
Troyzan was good there, because it felt like he was living my experience watching that season. I was like, yeah, I'm over it too, Troyzan.
Yeah, we all just want to throw in the towel.
Up. I mean, Sarah played a great game, but let's get to that.
Thanks everyone. Let's move on.
Yeah.
But no, I think Sam did a really great job, and I think that's the other thing. Dave, you mentioned his age, and I always forget how young he is, because me at that age, I do not have the emotional maturity in order to handle that situation. So, I mean, really, props to him, and also props to Teeny as well for being able to have the self-awareness to recognize that I'm projecting, like, the fact that Teeny was able to say, look, I think I'm projecting my own insecurities onto Sam, and to go through that whole journey on the island, like, that's normally the thing you realize once you see yourself on TV, you see the reaction, then you come to that realization. To do it within 26 days while you're starving is extremely impressive.
Or the people who never do. That's what really impresses me about this, is the fact that Teeny lived and died by their openness out there. Like, they were just a very candid player, which is wild, again, in a season of dishonesty. They were very open about when they were struggling emotionally. They were very open, including a tribal council, about like, I'm confused, I feel left out. They weren't necessarily trying to project anything of like, yeah, I actually knew the entire time. And then it plays out here when, again, there are so many people that everyone comes into this game, despite the fact that ideally Survivor is when you sort of break down society and try to rebuild it inherently and internally within this island-based setting. people are always going to bring their life experience and their preconceived biases and notions into the game. And very, very rarely do you get someone to admit, like, basically, yeah, I have a little bit of a hot boy bias, that I am someone who's coming to terms with my own gender identity. And so I see what Sam has been able to do and what he's been able to pull equated to like what I can't do in my life. And that's why I resent him. It's even more impossible. This is like when Jeff was winnowing down Sue. These are the number of people over 50 who play the game. You're in the 5%, etc. It's even more so for someone to have that realization on the island in the moment, minutes before their demise, and to open up about it. And so that's why I give Teeny, again, so much kudos, is that when you get cast on these shows, there's at least a little bit of a sense of ego. And again, it makes it very rare to find those people that were like, I was wrong for doing this, or this is the reason why I did it. It's a very hard dose of truth to swallow. And Teeny didn't take a whole spoonful of it. They took the whole bottle of it and just like absolutely spewed out what they were thinking in the moment, which felt so, I don't know, so, again, open to me and so refreshing and so relatable at the same time.
Yeah, Teeny's speaking of sort of unique archetypes, so to speak. Like, we've probably had someone out there before, I'm sure we have, who's projecting something onto someone else. But to do it in the moment and to take it back, and also someone who's that young and talking, has the self-awareness too. There's a couple lines this season where they said something like, I did what a 23-year-old does, and I opened my mouth. And I thought, okay, that's super interesting. I would love to see her in 5 years, them in 5 years.
Yeah.
I don't know if Teeny wants to. I have no idea what their current state of mind is after that, but it would be really interesting to see someone like Teeny later on and how they handle things differently potentially.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I would love to see Teeny come back and play. I mean, there was it. Jeff said like someone from this season is in contention for 50, and at first I was like, oh, okay, maybe it's Rome, and now I'm like, I don't know. There's so many amazing people that I would love to see back from this season.
It is interesting, yeah, because I don't think that, obviously, compared to 46, like the personalities could not be nearly as large as the people on there. But I think by comparison, I mean, I still think the top two are probably going to be some form of Andy and Genevieve, but like, I wouldn't be surprised to see Teeny pop up there. Sam, I don't know if they're going to bring back winners, but I think now that Rachel especially has tied a record, and I think has a little bit of like this Michelle Fitzgerald, I wouldn't say chip on her shoulder, but like certainly how some of the internet has viewed her win even after the fact, which is like that she got lucky, that she relied on idols and advantages and immunity wins, which Sam also tried to, again, sort of throw at the wall as a reason why she shouldn't win. Like, I think there is a little bit of something for her to prove there as well. Like, there is a lot of interesting characters that I think could certainly get brought back from this season. It'll be interesting to see in the grand spectrum of whatever 50 ends up being, because again, I do think compared to maybe some of the other players that, while they do serve as very unique, they might get compared to from an archetype perspective. I would not say they're like as big, flagrant personalities as those people, with a couple of exceptions, but like very, very good. And I think especially in a season that was less on the goofs and more so on like the inherent character drama that existed, there's a lot of really interesting stuff going on.
Yeah, I just to double add to that, I think Rachel, basically once Rachel won immunity, and I agree with you, Mike. I was like, all right, well, but even last episode when she won for Final Five, I'm like,
I know,
that's pretty much it. I was just thinking kind of along those lines of, she's going to win, and I really want to see her out there in a different situation. I want to see her fighting for her life at the end, because I think kind of like Michelle Fitzgerald, but I was thinking more even like Sandra, where I think, because and Rachel talked about this in her final tribal, like she had to adapt. She didn't think she'd be the Ben Treberg and Mike Holloway or whatever. But I like that she adapted to the game that was there in front of her, and I think that she would do that on a different season, in a whole different theme, a whole different group of people. I really think that she, of all the winners we've had in the new era at least, is one of the most adaptable and could have a really interesting second go around out there.
Mm-hmm. Well, and also just thinking about what was Rachel's perception, I mean, from both the cast and then the audience, because for the audience, and I was talking with one of my cousins watches the show and felt like Rachel came out of nowhere. All of a sudden Rachel was Rachel's a huge threat. Rachel's going to win. Sort of when we hit that, it was that split tribal where, Rachel was presumed to go until Saul ends up saving her. And that felt like, I mean, to them, and I feel like also to a certain aspect with me, that came out of nowhere. And so I'm very curious to have a different story. You know, what was Rachel doing early that made her such a threat? Or like, what were the things that made her really stand out? And in a different group of people, how does now she play with them? Especially given the fact that there's a lot of discussion about her playing, you know, such an amazing game. So I would love to see that again.
Yeah, and I think as well, to Dave's point, the game that she went out there with every intention to play was far from what she ended up doing. And that's awesome. Again, adaptability is basically her middle name at this point, that she's like, shit, all right, I guess I have to win my way out and use an idol from the final 8 onwards and not become vulnerable then. Because, yeah, I mean, even her edit came a little bit out of nowhere. And maybe that was also due to the fact that she was surrounded by larger storylines and larger characters as well. And it's interesting because the meta of the new era, we've talked about this so many times, right, is that you want to be a big player, but don't stick out too much because then you'll get cut from like 8 to 5. And Rachel both is proving and also the exception to that rule that, like, yes, she did have that moment where she was nearly taken out at that split tribal council, but otherwise she was pretty much able to work things behind in the background, you know, from pretty much the beginning of the merge until Kyle ends up going, and then she really just sort of comes into her own. But then at the same time, she is this threat too that dictates the end game. That is, again, something very rare we see. Even someone like Dee that was so dominant to us only really had one round where people were looking in her direction. So I'm not sure how much this is going to shift the meta from 49 onwards, but I'm really intrigued to see what Rachel's journey is going to do as an effect of the players from here on out.
Yeah, definitely. I do want to mention one moment that was probably my favorite moment of the entire finale.
Okay.
And it was during the reunion, all 20 minutes of it. And it was when Andy, talking to Andy, Jeff's talking to Andy, and Andy is, you know, talking about his journey, blah, blah, blah. And Andy used the word orthogonal. And Jeff just stops in the middle and goes, look at this nerd. Ha ha, nerd. Nerd words. What a nerd. If there was a locker there, I swear Jeff would have shoved Andy in there. Like, it just broke him. It was like whatever else Andy had to say about his, you know, experience of the game, just nothing. It was like Andy used the word orthogonal and Jeff was just thrown into a tizzy.
I love that too. My favorite could have been moment of the reunion after show is, you know, the transition they're making where once again Jeff's doing like a one shot, like, look at me, I can grab champagne and pizza and whatever, and it's all when they're all moving behind him, all I want him to do is say, hey Sam, could you move those desks?
Yeah. All right, Sam, everyone huddle around Sam. Ladies, get away from him, please. Don't think you're cute here for when Teeny mentions this, they immediately cut to Sierra sitting on the jury, like, you shady boo thing, sitting there trying to make something out of nothing. How dare you? But yeah, I agree. And the thing is, like, real ones knew that was a reference to Sylvia from, of course, Survivor Fiji, of course, non-orthogonal, etc., etc. But like, at the same time, you know what it is? Actually, with Jeff, it's sort of like when you approach an actor that you love and you make reference to like a role that they had early in their career. You're like, when you did this in this episode, that was great. And they're like, I have no memory of that, but I'm so glad you enjoyed it. I think that's what happens when you reference Survivor Fiji to Jeff. And he's like, okay, great. Unless it has anything to do with the fall of the Four Horsemen or the car curse, I don't know anything about that. So sure, I'm not going to get the reference, but I appreciate that you were able to sort of make that tongue-in-cheek as I also lampoon your word choice at the same time.
I don't know. I have so much to say about again, whenever we talk about the after show, I'm never going to be happy with it. But I mean, I want sassy Jeff. I know, Liana, you talked about that too. Like, at least we got sassy Jeff, but it's just there's nothing that other than we make fun of it, which again is what we did with the old reunion show, is that we would like make fun of the reunion show. So I don't know that there's anything that they're adding to it. I wouldn't be surprised, though I don't think it will happen, that they just kind of it goes from 10 minutes or 20 minutes to 10 to 5 minutes to just here's the preview for next season.
Imagine if they said, congratulations, Rachel. Now everybody don't boo. We're going immediately to what's coming up the next season.
Yeah, we need to hear about Chocolate Milk Boy.
Or maybe what they need to do is like after they dismiss everybody, right? Like the party streamers have come down. You know, the pizza boxes and champagne glasses are tossed on the floor of tribal council. Jeff's in there being like, "What a season, huh? Operation Italy changed the game forever. Rachel tied a Survivor record. Well, let's do it all again, shall we?" It's more so him kind of wrapping it up by himself after the confetti has come down, and then we move into next season rather than. I mean, I think the Survivor 47 cast, with no impugnment to Survivor 48, was right to boo during their own after show minutes after Rachel was crowned. Like, and now on to the next one, folks. Your 15 minutes starts now.
Here comes your irrelevancy. Yeah, you know what Jeff should do is do like the classic, get like just have them. Okay, now you're all happy. Now you're all sad. Now and get like reaction shots, and then just shoot his questions 10 months later.
Like context reaction shots.
Yes, yeah, and then they'll just really use that against them, and just that way we get the best of both worlds. I don't know. I'm stuck with my solution. I want daytime the next day, broad daylight. Let's expose your game in tribal council, and you've had time.
Yeah, I want them hungover AF.
Yeah. Why not?
Yeah.
I think that's how you can capture those raw emotions there.
Yeah,
just like,
exactly.
all right, we really want you in the moment to feel things. Like, while you are nursing that headache, talk about the feeling of losing out on $1 million.
Yeah, Sam, are you sad? No, I'm just need Tylenol. Yeah.
All right, well, we have a lot of preseason prediction stuff to get through right now because even though it still is 4 players, which is one of the smaller numbers we come into the end game with, we still did write out preseason guesses about the Final Four, a very fun Final Four. I'll be intrigued to see, Jeff couched in one of his many walk and talks like, nobody would have expected that these people would have made their way to the end game. The question is, Liana, how true is that? And let us start with a big presence in Teeny. Teeny, obviously, very fun personality in the preseason. People had high hopes for them based on their self-appointed social butterfly nature. Do you agree with them? How did you think they would do?
Okay, I had Teeny making the finale. I said that Teeny is our social monarch of the season. If they can make connections with their text door neighbor, they can certainly make connections with anyone on the island. Teeny moves through the game and never really in any danger, relying on their social relationships. This takes Teeny all the way till Final Four fire making, where their social flame burned bright, but their literal fire did not. Teeny is eliminated in the Fallen Angel spot, and I am sad. Also, Teeny is a solid narrator throughout the season and crushes it in confessionals. Teeny's ally was everyone, and their enemy was chemical combustion. I did not think of the wind being against Teeny in the way that it was, but I was shocked when I reread this. I was very happy with myself.
And there's like a non-zero chance that Genevieve is some sort of like air mage, right? Or like
she was wind bending and pushing
exactly.
the fire out of the way.
Exactly. Like she has control of the elements. She spun Teeny around one final time by spinning the breeze.
It was just so funny to me that it was like Teeny can't cut the rope, Teeny can't burn the rope. There's just like poor Teeny. Really, the Charlie Brown spot for sure.
Well, listen, I think you're going to win this one, but I felt pretty darn good going into this because I had Teeny also making the finale. I did have Teeny making the final 3. So I had said, as soon as Teeny hits the beach, they spread their wings as the social butterfly they are, but their main focus is going to be Asia. They immediately come clean about their RHAP fandom and promise they'll keep her secret as long as they work together. Due to Teeny's early connections, they'll bring together Asia, Rome, and Saul to form the Lavo Tories, which serve as the easy majority in the pre-swap. As one of the most terminally online Survivor fans, and I say that with love, we'll get a lot of confessionals from them about how they have a Survivor bucket list, even with mundane activities like naming the merged tribe and getting sand in unmentionable areas. When the individual game hits, Teeny is able to reset and make quick bonds with former Tukus, but their loyalty lies first and foremost with the Lavo Tories until they all get taken out. We'll get a scene of Andy and Teeny talking about their respective sexualities as Teeny gets an emotional confessional about their identity journey. Teeny and Asia go from an alliance of mutually assured destruction to their only salvation in the game. The two move together in lockstep as Teeny is able to use their stellar social skills and tendency to be underestimated to largely avoid the target. Fortunately, as Chappelle has learned, so will Teeny. You live by the Asia, you die by the Asia. At the Final Four, Sam wins immunity and sends the tightest pair of the game into fire. Feeling like the underdog, Teeny stands tall and takes out their closest ally. But despite being forged by flame, the jury dumps a big old bucket of water on Teeny's game the next day. Though they admire their time together, they feel they played less of an independent game than Sam. And their closest ally was Asia, and their enemy was the jury.
Wow, these are impressive.
I mean, Liana's was more impressive. Let's be honest here.
Yes, please give me a point.
But I mean,
Dave, no.
Oh. Listen,
Don't think it through.
I already know my answer, but I will say it was funny. Like you had the scene of talking about sexuality. Instead, we got Andy talking to John, be like, "I'm bi, like I'm gay."
Yeah, well, they're carrying the lock.
It's just like so good. Like if you, it's really, I mean, that compared to season 1 of like this whole production.
Yeah.
Oh my God, Richard is gay. To I'm bi, I'm gay. Cool.
I wonder what number word in Andy's total dialogue with John did that come up? Like, is it in number 10? Like he says, "Hi, I'm Andy," blah blah blah, and then the next thing they do when they have a conversation is, "I'm bi, I'm gay."
Yeah. It's just I love that. Obviously, Liana wins this one, but still interesting insights all around.
No, it was very good.
All right, well, let's move into our requisite 0 vote finalists. Let's talk about Sue. I had Sue making the final 3.
Oh my God, Mike.
Yeah,
I'm already dead.
It was a bit of a spoiler alert. I did have all of the real Final Four making the finale in my preseason predictions.
All right, I'll see you guys when Mike's done winning.
No, you just won. Don't count yourself out, Leon.
I know, that's my one.
The wind can blow my predictions away at any point in time.
I'm the wind, and I
exactly
what I want. It's licking the flame is licking the string, but we'll see what happens.
So what to do about Sue? Here's what I had to say. True to her perception preseason, Sue will be seen as a chill, hardworking presence around camp. It's the perfect mask for when she takes flight behind the scenes, furiously searching for idols. While her search comes up frustratingly short, she does get brought in with Gabe and Caroline, and while Sue isn't able to find the idol herself, she does get one played on her in the pre-merge right before Gabe is sent out. Gabe's blindside fosters Sue's resentment towards the other Tukus. While Caroline, her now closest ally, is able to mask those feelings, that's not how Sue sees it. In the split tribal council, she makes her move against TK, kicking off a streak of Tuku votes and leaving her former trimates in the dust. After making Sue's big move, she once again hits the jungle and actually hits pay dirt this time when she finds an idol. She ends up playing it, but unfortunately does not make the impression she wants, nullifying 1 or even 0 votes. As the game goes along, Sue begins to also grow more resentful of the young kids that she's playing with. She has very pointed comments about some of their bad attitudes about losing challenges. In the final tribal council, Sue reveals her family's story, how the show served as a buoy in a turbulent sea around her daughter's condition. She'll also point out, perhaps despite her demographic, how much she took the game by full force, finding idols and making moves. But despite her claims of being a female Tony, Sue will receive much fewer jury votes than any of his winning games, getting a singular ballot from Caroline. Her closest ally was Caroline, and her enemy was Sam, then the jury.
Pretty impressive.
Yeah.
Let's see what Leon...
but yes, Dave, but what?
I mean, yes, and let's see what Leon...
Yes.
All right, let's see how this goes. So I had Sue making the jury.
Oh, okay.
Here's what I wrote about Sue. Mother! In all caps. Sue's pregame relationships and Sue's pregame reputation carries into her game relationships, where the majority of her Tuku tribe wants to be her closest ally. Sue bestows that honor to Caroline, working closely as a duo in the pre-merge. When Caroline leaves mid-jury, Sue pivots to creating new alliances with Sam and Annika. With a solid social game, Sue becomes the mother that everyone loves, aka a threat to win the game. So Sue is voted out unanimously to a round of tears from her fellow tribe mates and given a hero's send-off. Her ally was Caroline and her enemy was Gabe.
Oh!
So, yeah. Some moments of accurateness and some not so much.
I'll say this. I think for Sue, that might have been like she might be more memorable in Liana's version. Like if that happened.
Yeah,
So,
she gets
and
the
that she
full
deserves that.
standing ovation on the way
Yeah,
out.
yeah. So
Yeah, that's like kind of the Kyle send off, right? That's like what I was. Oh, everybody is hugging and we all love Sue and whatever. But yeah. Okay.
Okay, well, Mike won, but
Yeah.
really great effort on that one.
Thanks for the participation trophy.
I think Sue. I like that yours gives her credit because I do think that it was easy to kind of bag on Sue throughout the season a little bit. I was one of the people like, okay, Sue, we get it. But by the finale, I was like, I think I like her more than I realized. So yeah, I'm glad that you give her that with your prediction. Anyway.
Yeah, and it's always interesting to sort of come in from the perspective of the zero vote finalists. And I think this was kind of a scenario where she didn't know that, I see Rachel and Sam talking each other up, gassing each other up. It's yet another take on the Rachel and Genevieve conversation last time. And I do feel for her that it became clear very quickly that she was kind of out of it. And now she just has to pretty much just sit there and be a ghost while all these other people actually fight it out for $1 million. But again, she makes Survivor history. She is the oldest person to ever sit at a final tribal council, which is like incredibly notable. And who knows? I mean, we talk about how the new era casting especially loves to just throw like 1 or 2 40 people in their 40s, people in their 50s, people in their 50s who are lying that they're in their 40s. Maybe Sue is able to inspire some people there to get off the couch and get on the plane to go to LA, in a manner of speaking, and apply to be on Survivor. And we'll see more older contestants in the future. I do think, it's a really fun archetype to have on the show.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. I would hope so. My mom, I visited her for Thanksgiving and we turned on Survivor and she goes, "Why are they all children?" Yeah. So, yeah.
Yeah, that's legitimately, I think that's probably like, I really like casting. I really think they do a great job. I think, but I do hear what people say about the idea of like, it'd be nice to have more sort of blue collar people, so to speak. But I think another extension of that is just like older people who just like have a different perspective overall than you might have out there. And so Sue had one, but I think if you had like, if it looked more like an original, like an season 1 or 2 or 3 or 1 through 15 of Survivor, I think that would be kind of cool to see in 2025.
All right. Well, Liana, let's move on and talk about probably one of the kids that your mom highlighted while watching Survivor. Sam, how did you think Sam was going to do?
Okay, so I had Sam making the jury. I said that Sam was immediately in the minority group on Gada, losing his closest ally, Sierra, right off the bat. This turned our mild-mannered sports reporter into a vigilante out for justice. But being the savvy player he is, Sam realized he needed to wait for the perfect moment to strike. Slowly, Sam dismantles the Gada tribe by voting out Andy and convincing Annika to turn on Rachel. Unfortunately for Sam, these moves only raised his threat level and made him a serious contender for Sole Survivor. And then in parentheses, I wrote OMG like Saul, but like Soul. I don't know. I didn't like finish the joke there. Then right before the finale, Teeny poetically convinces Annika to turn on Sam, just like Sam convinced Annika to turn on Rachel. Ooh. Sam's allies were Sierra and Annika, and enemy was Teeny.
Okay, well, listen, by the end of that, certainly I think the biggest enemy Sam had made was probably Teeny.
Yeah.
I mean, I think if Sam had been voted out, like everybody was trying to vote him out for that like hot second, it would have been a bit closer, but he did manage to survive and make to the final 3. So yeah, Mike, it's okay. Your winner pick, I assume. Yes?
That is correct. Yeah, it would have been one of 2 options. Sam Phelan was my winner pick. I don't know. I think it was just I don't know if it was the reporter solidarity, but for me, what really locked it in was, or maybe the theater kid bias as I continue to pick those theatrical types. But I think it was for me when he did bring up about how his interviewing experience is going to help him in the game. I truly thought that was, and maybe it did, and we didn't see it that much, but like having the ability to connect with people and ask them questions to get information while not giving away too much. I just think it's such an inherently good skill set to bring over to Survivor. So I had high hopes for him and almost got there. Maybe it looked for a second from some people's perspectives like I would have. So congratulations to Sam. Here is the fictional game I created for him, though, that made him $1 million richer. For Sam, a la Teacher Tommy, we're treated to a montage in the premiere of Sam doing pseudo interviews with each one of the people on his tribe to find out more about them. Sam quickly notices the gays and theys alliance clicking up in Gada. Despite his confidence in being a physical asset for the group, he hits the jungle, finding his tribe's idol.
Oh.
Sam gets put out of the frying pan and into the fire when he ends up in the minority at the swap. He decides to throw a Hail Mary, openly saying he has an idol to try to broker relationships. While it works out well for some, it doesn't for others, as Sue feels he comes across as a cocky kid. In the post-merge, Sam gloms onto the remnants of Gada in Rachel and Andy. However, he's also able to ingratiate himself with opposing alliances, getting him in good with the likes of Caroline and Asia. As the game goes along, Sam's competitive drive and mounting exhaustion/starvation causes him to get quite ornery, causing his up to that point stellar social game to slip. After losing Rachel at the final 5, Sam knows he has to put together a 2-minute drill to make sure he doesn't go out in fire. And he comes through when he needs him most, winning the final immunity challenge and setting in Asia against Teeny, effectively taking down one of the biggest endgame threats. Despite not being in power for much of the post-merge, Sam is commended by the jury for navigating the tumultuousness of the post-merge without much safety, winning when he needed it most and not burning as many people as Sue and Teeny did. As a result, he wins 6-1-1. After the season, Sam makes Boffo bucks on Cameo, especially next fall as he offers fantasy football advice in addition to the usual birthday greetings. His closest ally was Sierra, then Rachel, and his enemy was pretty much everyone at one point or another.
This is closer than I thought it would be.
Yeah.
Sam.
I was about to give Liana the point, but because she got the Sierra part right, but then you said it, so I'm leaning towards Mike.
Mike just added that. He's cheating.
Oh, okay. If that's true, then
Check
Liana,
the logs of the
I
Google
believe you.
Docs. I've got receipts.
No. I believe you. Okay, then
You're
Liana.
just getting
sure.
spun by Liana's Genevieve energy.
Exactly. No, I'll give
an
it to
icon.
Mike, but that was still a good spin. Yes. Sorry.
I don't know why we clocked Sam and Sierra so early. Are we just the problem along with everyone else in Survivor 47?
I think so. I think we're part of the
Just-
problem, Mike.
That is interesting. That well, I heard on I think Adam Klein's podcast with Rob Rob's with Adam, that he said something like, I wonder if there's something to the idea that Sierra didn't vote for Sam because she didn't want to continue that perception of.
I mean, it's interesting.
Like,
I mean, that's
yeah.
that's what Drew Basile kind of talked about when he was speaking with Rob about how, like, he obviously voted for Austin because of his loyalty, but he did think at one point, if Austin wins, then how am I going to be portrayed as just kind of like the bumbling sidekick? Maybe Sierra had the wherewithal to be like, if Sam wins, am I going to be presented as sort of like the Gwen Stacy to his Spider-Man, right? Like the necessary person that had to die for him to become the hero that he ended up being.
Yeah, I like that version of the Survivor-verse, the Spider-Verse. Yeah. Well, anyway, Mike, you get that point. But I thought you guys are, I mean, I'm very impressed. I had Sam as my winner pick. I'll say that.
There we go.
There you go.
I did a pregame draft, so I had 6 players with 2 other fellas, and I had Sam, Rachel, and Teeny. So going into the final 4, I was like, well, okay, I think I got it. But Sam on paper does. He just kind of, I think he kind of had that, like, especially old school Survivor. There was always like 5 people that went into the season. Like, these are probably one of the 5 winners. Sam kind of had that energy of like, this guy's going to do pretty well, I think.
And that's the thing as well. Again, I think that the way we got to the final 6 that we did going into this finale was pretty tumultuous. But when Jeff was like, oh, nobody would have predicted this group, like, I kind of looked at my predictions and I was like, I mean, if you look at like popular winner picks, I think Asia was maybe one of the only ones who, like, and I think TK as well got some stuff in the preseason, but I think a lot of the other people that were getting a lot of those winner picks from those first interviews, the videos dropped, etc., did end up making it to the end game. I just don't think in the fashion that we necessarily expected.
Maybe Survivor is scripted, and Mike's one of the writers. He's writing that. He's writing the NFL storylines. He's writing.
He's keeping himself busy.
Yeah.
Well, let's talk about the person who ends up winning this season, thanks to Mike White. It is Rachel Lamont. So I will finish off with Rachel here. I did have Rachel making the finale, but I had her going out in 5th place. Because I had not thought that we would have a 6-person finale. Otherwise, Andy would be there as well. Due to Rachel's down-to-earth personality, out of all her cast, her confessionals will be much less focused on personal content and more on gameplay and narrative as to what's happening strategy-wise. A war brews online between the Standum and the GameBot accusers. I guess I'm expecting some sort of like big social media civil war by people being like, Rachel's boring, she only talks about strategy, and then the stand-ups being like, no, she's mother, she's queen. Rachel gets her first dose of reality when she's left out of the Annika boot. With her and Sam both desperately striving for allies in the post-merge, they turn to each other as a voting block. They occasionally rely on Andy, though he makes them pull their hair out with how many times he flips on them. They say the survivor gods can be cruel.
Come on.
And Rachel experiences that in the auction when she wins an item that immediately sends her out on a journey. Despite getting a mere extra vote, everyone believes she has something greater and her threat level skyrockets. Rachel's endgame is dictated by her complicated rivalry with Asia. She's acutely aware of the danger Asia presents through her RHAP fandom and is frustrated at her protection due to idols and a teeny shield. Asia, in turn, constantly keeps Rachel on her radar, talking her up as the exact person they can't let slip through into the endgame. This Cold War turns hot at the final 5. Sue is caught between 2 pairs in Rachel Sam and Asia Teeny. Unfortunately, Sue shows a lack of desire to work with Sam's attitude and has been drinking down Asia's anti-Rachel narrative for the past 2 weeks. And so Rachel gets taken out in the requisite biggest threat goes out in the beginning of the finale slot. Her closest ally was Annika, then Sam, and her enemy was Asia and occasionally Andy.
Oh. From time to time.
Boy, okay.
I mean, swap Asia for Genevieve. That's
honestly what it was, yeah.
Yeah.
There's a lot of
I
similarities.
mixed up the Lavos.
Well, I had Rachel making the jury. I said that Rachel quickly formed a tight alliance with Annika, later bringing in Andy to form the Pirate Alliance because there are.
Oh, I remember that.
AAR. Andy, Annika, Rachel. R. This is like a big deal. Okay, this group runs God on the pre-merge, eliminating Sierra and John, which motivates Sam for revenge. After losing Andy in Mergatory, Rachel scrambles to regain power in the newly merged tribe. Rachel leads the first vote against the Tukus, but the tides turn on her when Sam convinces Annika to flip on her fellow Buccaneer. Due to her feeling that idols and advantages set you up to fail, Rachel never went on any jury and didn't look for any idols, which could have come in handy during her boot episode. Boot like pirate, ha, which again, I didn't even finish the joke.
I guess pirates do wear boots, but they're more so known for wearing one boot and one particular other thing on their leg.
Or finding booty. Then so her ally was obviously the Pirate Alliance R. Her enemies were Sam and Annika.
Well, let me say this. In the same way that I would play like Sam, I would play this game like Liana. Like, I'd get really attached to something like the R Alliance and really take it from there. So I appreciated every step that took to let's include the word Buccaneer too, and let's I mean Mike gets that one, but Liana gets my admiration for the storytelling.
All right, well, that's better. I'll sail the 7 seas with your praise.
Exactly.
That makes me happy.
Good.
You have that spiritual booty that you can bring with you.
Yeah.
And look, let me also just say, for all the people out there, and I'm telling this to myself as well. I'm looking at myself in the mirror right now. Like, relish this. Like, take this moment, because this is not going to happen again. I have been so factually incorrect about so many things in the 10 plus seasons that Liana and I have done this. You know, I've been able to like pick the winner as the runner up a couple times. I've had a couple of correct winner picks, but by and large, I am much more off the mark. There was at one point when we called this the Liana wins game because we came in every week and Liana would be more correct. So this is very much an aberration. This is the exception, not the rule. I guarantee you moving forward, 48, my time as Mike Stradamus will be over. The crystal ball will shatter. So I'm just here to like relish the time that I somehow ended up being this broken clock that was right for the 2 times a day. And I think my second time has been extinguished at this point. So I'm very happy to be incredibly incorrect moving forward and take this very much as the one Hail Mary that I threw that actually ended up working this time.
This is Liana's game changers. Tony needed to lose badly to come back.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Although all I'm hearing is that Mike got dropped from the writer's room for 48. So that's all I'm hearing. But you know.
Yeah, they didn't like my big brave ideas about how bringing in pirates to play was the next new thing that Survivor needed.
No.
Well, because they didn't realize, like, sort of like Jeff with Orthogonal, they forgot that there was an entire pirate themed season of Survivor and just thought I was off my rocker.
Did anyone call it Survivor 40 orthogonal after like what we were doing last year with the? Gosh,
Well,
I've already forgotten.
maybe we have Survivor
Several,
40
yeah.
40 octagonal coming up with 48.
Oh, that's what. Okay, but I still what I'm telling you is I still don't know what orthogonal means. I just know it sounds like 8.
It's just a right angle.
Okay.
Yeah, it's just a right angle.
Which I'm also doing to Liana for preseason predictions.
Oh, loser!
That's what Jeff should have done. If you really wanted to lead, oh, like this, Andy.
Oh, that was you. You couldn't open a coconut.
I have a theory that when Jeff brought the popcorn out, he was like, "I'm going to be the new Michael Jackson popcorn gif," and I think he needs to create more things like that, like this with an L. That'd be great. So
yeah, I mean, Jeff really does need to do more things for the gif. Yeah, I'm sure that's the thing that we leave season 47 with.
Yes, it's important.
Well, we're not just done yet with preseason predictions, because even in the podcast that we did before the season, Liana, you and I came up with contestants for these Survivor superlatives. I'll just read through them because there are some fun ones, especially in retrospect here. Most likely
wait. Okay, can you read it? And I want to hear Dave's answer to it first before you read ours.
All right. So now is Dave talking about it from his preseason perspective or now?
No, I think now. Yeah, now after the fact, Dave, who would you give the superlative to? And then we'll see what Mike and I said at the beginning of the season.
Well, I mean, from that effect, this one is very interesting. Most likely to get a personal segment, I guess. From Dave's perspective, who had the most personal stuff dedicated to them in this season?
Like from like personal segment, I mean, like stuff before the island, like
stuff they brought into the island. Yeah.
Well, it's got to be Teeny, right? With just right? No, okay.
That was my gut too. As soon as
yeah. Okay.
So then, Liana used Kyle, which I think also got a little bit of highlight as well.
Oh, yeah.
To Sue's chagrin, of course, that one time in the montage where she could play. Why do we all have to always hear he's poor?
That was such a good moment. And it goes by so fast. Like, you really need to be paying attention to it. It's so good.
I had John Lovett, which, like, to be fair, we did. To Dave's point, maybe not in the grand scheme of things do we remember the personal story of John Lovett.
Right, for 1 week.
Man, he was such a good storyteller for that one episode, obviously.
I know. But bring him back.
Yeah, why not?
All right, well, on the other side of things, Dave, we had most likely to get purpled. Who do you think, now to Liana's point, again, with the 90-minute episodes especially, I think this is a very good cast that got fleshed out. But do you think when people are listing off the 18 cast members of Survivor 47, who is the bottom of that list?
That they just have a hard time remembering?
Right.
Yeah.
This is so bad because I had to look it up the other day and I've already forgotten his name again. And I didn't have a problem with him either. It's the second vote off.
TK.
TK.
Yeah, when we were looking back, or when they did the intro, the finale episode, I was like, oh, TK, right. I think so.
I mean, you're just proving an argument that RHAP has made for a long time, right? That, like, it's actually worse to be voted off second than first, because first, you have the big premiere dedicated to you. Sometimes it can be a little bit of an extended episode. You join the ranks of, like, who's the most memorable first boot, etc. If you're second boot, people are tuning in the next week. They may not remember you, especially. You might go out in rather unceremonious fashion. So it's a tough position to be in.
Well, and interestingly, like, excuse me, because Sean came up a lot because of Genevieve. Like, he just kept his vote off moment looking at her was, and he was third, right? Third or fourth?
Fourth.
Fourth, yeah.
But yeah, TK, sorry to him. Sorry for him.
Sorry for him. And also with you. Well, Liana, you and I, interestingly enough, both said Rachel.
Oh no!
That's fair preseason.
Who I do believe
That's
now, yes, but I do believe, and this might be due to the ballooned airtime of 47. I do believe amongst the many records she tied, did set a record for most confessionals a female contestant has ever given on the show.
Yeah, so we nailed it.
And then we also gave some secondary answers though. I said Kyle and you said Saul.
Oh, okay.
Those were good because based on their pregame interviews with people like Mike Bloom, I did feel like they're not giving me as much as I would like. I remember Rachel specifically said, I think in the official CBS one, like there was a line where she said, normally my husband is the person that kind of like keep me on track or whatever. Without him here, I don't know how it's going to go. I was like, oh, that's not good. But I think that was more like kind of a throw. I don't think.
I mean, again, it's talking about adapting to the circumstances. Basically, the game told her like, nope, you're a main character now. She's like, all right, I guess I am now.
Yeah.
All right. Next up, Dave, most likely to flip on their number one ally.
Well, okay, after the game, Andy, but ahead of time, I think I would have said Genevieve. I really did like Genevieve in the pregame, and I did feel there was like already a little bit of that Parvati vibe happening. But I'm very curious what you all thought.
We both went with some of the big boys here. I went with Gabe, who, to be fair, did talk up this big game, right, in the preseason.
Oh,
and also,
that's a good answer.
And also brought it into his jury questioning as well, which was not only wild, but, like, also pretty wild for Rachel to have the response that she did, though I respected it so much of her being like, I don't care about a Wikipedia page. I care about winning $1 million right here, right now. But I said Gabe. Liana, you said Sam specifically because he said his loved one would be Harvey Specter.
You got to be ruthless, right? If you're gonna be Harvey Specter.
That's so funny.
All right, next up, Dave, talking about not being influenced by social media. Let's talk about who becomes an influencer, most likely to pimp out their brand. So even like beyond, because this used to be like who's most likely to make a podcast. This was like who's most likely to go wild on Cameo, make their own merch, etc. Now maybe this is a little cheating because some players have now officially started coming out with merch, but like, when we look at this 6 months from now, who do you think is the Survivor 47 contestant that has most tried to turn this opportunity into a big brand?
I think they're doing it as the Washington Post TikTok guy, quote unquote, quite well. Annika, I think Annika's TikToks that she put out there were real good, and I don't know if I would have said that pregame, but like I could see her as the sort of like person that just kind of grows in the community time after time if she sticks around because she's just so good at like. She's very online, I guess.
Oh, interesting. Yeah, I'm not a big TikTok person, so I'm gonna have to. And I know
they're really good.
I feel like I say that, unfortunately. Like, I feel like I have to like apologize when I say that to you, considering that like that's your line of work. Yeah, exactly. So I ended up saying Rome, which I do think made a lot of sense. I think if Rome made it further, it would have made even more sense. Liana, you came up with a few. You did try to go for like some chalk picks here, trying to take credit for if Asia or John starts another podcast, even if it doesn't have to deal with Survivor, it technically counts.
Yeah, loophole. We love it.
And you also said Teeny for her new podcast, Talking Tribal with Teeny, their new podcast.
Yeah. Okay. Perfect.
Okay, fun. Yeah.
Dave, most likely to have an advantage, screw them over. I mean, I feel like there is a big person for this category.
Well, now I thought I had a clever answer, but now I don't.
I mean, who got idled out of the game?
Well, sure, but now I'm trying to do the pregame thing where I'm trying to put myself ahead, but also after, but also think like if this person played again, how would it go? And I just pregame, I did think Gabe was just all over the place and wanting to be the villain and thought like that could come back to bite him, but maybe that's a bad answer. Clearly there's someone obvious.
No, I mean, I think that's a fair assumption though. Okay. Like if you hit the jungle enough times, advantages are not, and this was also coming on the heels of 46, where advantages never worked out for anybody who even looked at them. That would make sense. So Liana, you said Genevieve. Because remember, her big preseason thing was that she was going to sabotage other people's Beware Advantage tasks. And I said Sierra because of the whole, like, she was a smart kind of gullible, which, like, maybe she was with Rachel's shot in the dark play. I'm not entirely sure. Trying to fit a square peg into a round hole there.
Well, it's funny because obviously Andy is the one who goes out as a consequence of Rachel playing the idol on herself. But at the same time, for some reason, Andy doesn't come across as like screwed by an advantage. Like I would almost say even more the fake idol and then the vote split with the vote on Caroline maybe is my answer, even though that wasn't even a real advantage. But to me, that feels like more got screwed over. And maybe that's more of a consequence of the vote split than the actual advantage itself. But yeah, I don't know. Andy to me does not immediately pop in the mind as like, yeah, that's the person who got screwed over.
Yeah, it did feel like a foregone conclusion but yeah, like as the audience, we kind of knew he was going home, and he also the way he received it was so like not blindsided even though he was.
Yes.
I mean, like he was so happy to have been blindsided. You're like, well, he's not really.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
All right, final couple of superlatives here. Most likely to weaponize a game of hide and seek.
The Q legacy.
Like QC.
Yeah. Well, I mean, gosh. I think I just like Genevieve so much, but I think Genevieve could be like, because she was so interesting in her confessionals talking about how she was like manipulating people. So yeah, I'll say Genevieve.
I'm just gonna. This is a safe space. Let me speak to my intrusive thoughts here, because I said leg QC, and that just went to QC for me. like QSSY, like Boosie. And then I was just thinking about when Q wore the Q skirt, and that image came into my mind. So now I want you all to unfortunately
It's
be
there.
demented by that. Yep.
Yes.
You can't untake that. Can't unring that bell.
Thanks, Mike.
If there's anything I'm bringing into the Christmas season, it's Q skirt.
Well, that's how Q sees it. So
Yeah.
all right.
Exactly. And so Liana, I think I said Keyshawn, which like I could see, because again, that guy is so sneaky AF. And you said Andy, which I think also is very good as well. Of like,
okay.
He is I think we talked about it from the lens that he would be super analytical of like, okay, they hid in the tree as opposed to on the ground. So what does that mean in terms of how they see themselves in the game? And
like
I don't know
the algogogram and
so I still think
that
I think Andy would fit that superlative, just maybe not in the way that we expected.
Yeah.
All right, final superlative in honor of the late, great, not late, Liz Wilcox, most likely to have an emotional breakdown after losing reward. Now, again, there's a very clear answer to this one, Dave, in hindsight.
Right. And I do think this is the one that I would imagine. I think I would have got it pregame, which is Teeny. I do feel that the pregame press was like, I don't know who this person is, and I'm not sure they know who they are either. And they also knew that they didn't know who they were, so that could lead to an emotional breakdown potentially.
Well, you were definitely more on the money than Liana and I. Liana, you said Rome, and you did say Rachel as well. So despite Rachel being incredibly purple from your perspective, she'll be remembered for this one random outburst she has as a result of being denied a reward. I said Sue, which maybe if Kyle had won that reward and not taken her, maybe we would
those are
have seen
both really good answers. Yeah. Rome I feel like Rome did have sort of a reaction at one point to something. Am I forgetting?
Well, he had the whole thing. Remember when when Saul didn't want to put him on that final leg of the challenge, and he's like, "No, you've got to let me do this. I'll raise a big stink if I don't do it. Just put me on it."
Yeah, that was a bit of a tantrum. That kind of counts.
Yeah.
Okay.
So that's our cast.
All right.
And I really will continue to say what the two of you have been, which is like, this was a very fun cast, in my opinion. I mean, again, we got so lucky that we got 46 and 47, which are two very different casts. I mean, I still think there was certainly like maybe the theme of 2024 in Survivor was pettiness to a certain extent, even having someone like Genevieve make her biggest move in taking out Saul because she feels petty. But like, even the more low-key personalities of 47 in comparison to 46 were still so fun. We're still so unique, and I'll be very intrigued to see not only how they make the transition from like being players to now being part of the commentary, but to your point, Liana, who we might see again in the near future.
Yeah. Well, I have one last little thing to do that we always like to do a check-in with the casuals. And I think this finale was particularly interesting. So I only have 3 comments that I pulled that kind of give an overview of what the casuals seem to take away from the season. So we're going to do a little mini game. And what I'm going to ask for the two of you is to give me how many likes you think this comment got. So we're going to read all 3 comments. I'll get all 3 likes, and then I'll do the reveal. And we'll essentially see how far away you are from the totality of the casuals feeling.
Is this Survivor Facebook? Is it
Survivor Facebook group?
Okay.
Yes,
and can you give me like a range of the average amount of likes?
Yes,
I
will tell you.
Moons. Okay, all right.
I mean, it goes from 0 to 600, right?
Okay,
but these comments all have 100 likes or more.
Oh, very good.
So these are the higher end comments, right? The ones that seem to be a general consensus. And I also read through a bunch of comments to see, okay, these seem to really encapsulate what I think the majority of the viewers seem to take away in this particular area of the internet. Okay. So I'm going to read. So here's your first comment, and then both of you will give me how many likes you think this comment got. So comment number 1, Sam should have won. He pulled the W out of thin air every time because he is a survivor, in all caps. Rachel was good, but Sam was more scrappy. Mike, how many likes do you think this got?
All right, so let's break down the psychology here, because Liana, from what we learned last time we visited Casuals Corner, we know that they are massive Saul fans. And so they were huge opposers of anyone who was against Saul. And I would imagine that there was a little bit of, Rachel, where's your gratitude? Saul saved you and you did nothing, and now you got rid of him. So I do wonder how much that translates, several weeks down the line, now that Rachel and Sam are sitting in the end. But I do think that Sam did earn a lot of kudos both on island and off island for this, again, very scrappy underdog. I mean, it's also interesting, almost to be honest, looking at the demos of Rachel and Sam, how they almost had like exact opposite games than you would expect, considering that his was not based on advantages, idols, challenge wins, just purely scraping by every single day. So if it's a range from 100 to 600, I will go with 420.
Okay. Dave?
Man, I do think that this is probably the general consensus on Survivor Facebook. When in doubt, just go with the man over the woman on Survivor Facebook, unfortunately. I'm going to Price is Right this a little bit and say like 450.
Okay, beautiful. So we're going to immediately go to our next comment. Oh, and to explain the whole why they liked Saul so much, it's because they hated Rome. And Saul was responsible for getting rid of Rome.
The enemy of the enemy is my friend.
The through line, yeah,
maybe,
exactly.
Maybe I should log back into Facebook. It's kind of
no.
Okay, all right.
No. Okay. Your next comment is best season ever. Rachel jumps to #1 player ever for me. She wasn't a snake or mean or obnoxious. She was stealthy, smart, and a great strategist. Loved this season. Dave, we're going to start with you on this one. How many likes do you think this comment got?
Was the commenter Dom?
Yes, exactly. Bomb Babate says.
Yeah, for the record, I listened to that too, and he made a lot of good points. And I agree with his comment, at least in terms of really good winner. But I'll say not as many so I'll say 77.
Okay. Mike, what about you?
I mean, it's a good point because, like, again, I think a lot of the things that Rachel was able to do would be befitting of maybe some of the more casually adored winners in terms of her back was against the wall and she did all these flashy things to make her way to the end and win handily. But again, am I going against my own logic in saying that so many people supported Sam winning, that so many people supported Rachel winning? You know what? Maybe it did feel like a very quote-unquote worthy final two, perhaps in the eyes of the viewers. I'm going to go with 125.
Okay, 125. All right, and your final comment that we're going to talk about is Sue not getting a vote made my night.
Oh, this one's high. I think this one... because again, I think from the last check-in we did, people
my favorite
really liked
game, by the way. I can play this whenever.
People really liked Kyle. And so again, it's a bit of the, in this case, the enemy of my friend is also my enemy. I don't know if they necessarily like Sue. I imagine in the interim, since we've adjourned Casual Corners meetings, there's been a lot of comments as to like, Sue's face is so dirty. Why doesn't Sue ever stick her face in the ocean? So I feel, unfortunately, they have counted out Sue in the way that the jury did by the time the Tribal Council had began. So I'm going to go, yeah, you know what? I'll shoot for the moon here. I will say an even 500.
Okay, an even 500. And Dave, what do you think?
I work in social media. I know a lot about demographics. Facebook is far and above our oldest audience. So with that in mind, with all due respect to people on Facebook, I'm going to say that a lot of people agreed, but they're like, maybe some people relate to Sue. Like we talked about earlier, we need older people on the season, people in their 40s. I'm going to say 324.
Okay, 324. Okay, so I will tell you, Mike was our overall winner. Okay, he was closer overall when you add up all the numbers about how far off he was.
But
he nailed the Sue comment. It got 489 likes.
Wow!
You said 500? Wow.
I guess 500.
Yeah, he said 500. So he was only 11 off on that one. That's Dave, unfortunately, a little bit more for you. But this is why I wanted to talk about this.
Okay.
Because the Sam comment, the pro Sam comment, got 194 likes, while the Rachel comment got 501.
Nice.
I was gagged. I will tell you, Dave, I had the exact same reaction. I immediately assumed Sam, they were going to be upset that Sam lost. Yeah. They love Rachel. They love Rachel as a winner.
So do I.
I was I was shocked. I was actually genuinely shocked. And I don't know if it's because maybe she won so many immunity challenges and that's why they really liked her. I don't know, because somewhere along the line, as Mike mentioned, they were not pro Rachel. They did not like that Rachel was not appreciative of Saul giving her the get out of jail free card. But somewhere along the line, like we have not talked Casuals Corner since that moment. Somewhere it swapped. And really, the editors, I think, did a great job in their ability to convey Rachel as a deserving winner.
Connect to the Facebook.
No, I mean, honestly, though,
so
like,
I love it.
Like, in all sincerity, I think this is a great barometer for the editors, to your point, because I think that, like, listen, I think even the most devoted super fans may not necessarily understand a lot of the understandable nuances that come with a game like Survivor, and especially it being expressed through the edit. So, like, this is a great litmus test. If those that may, I do not want to broad brush here because they may be intensely watching, but, like, if there are people that are largely second screening Survivor and they understand that, like, wow, Rachel was able to put together a pretty dominant game through the ways that she could to win, that speaks for Rachel's story as well as the way they were able to package it on the show.
And I mean, there were definitely some Sam should have won comments that got a decent number of likes. So there is the Sam contingency out there, but I thought it would be much more biased.
This is not the same, but I'm curious if you remember how the Survivor casuals reacted to D winning, because a lot of people would argue that D had a more dominant game overall, but D also won a bunch of immunities. So I'm curious, like, if that is the, like, winning a bunch of immunities.
Yeah, I would imagine they were pretty pro D. Because again, I think her edit up to that point really showed her as, like, she was the big powerhouse player. Like, Austin, yes, does finish in second place, but Austin had such a quiet edit compared to even a lot of people that was in the finale that I think maybe the people that supporting him would have been, like, through demo alone, and less so about, like, oh, the game he put together alongside D was so spectacular. And it's also tough because I think, unlike Rachel and Sam, to what you mentioned at the very beginning of this podcast, Dave, I think that the two of them were pretty much playing in lockstep, as opposed to Rachel and Sam, who were sometimes each other's greatest enemies, sometimes trying to work together and play two incredibly different journeys.
Yeah.
So I can actually answer that question. I went back to the Casuals Corner game we did at the finale of 45. They don't seem to think that Austin exists because all the comments are Jake should have won. Jake played a better game, always picking himself up and playing hard, didn't have alliances to carry him along. I wanted him to win.
So that's what I expected from this, for that argument to apply to Sam somehow. Yeah, that's so interesting.
That's exactly what I expected, because I remember them undervaluing Dee's game as well. So I just kind of assumed the same thing would happen. But no, Rachel got a lot of love.
Good.
A lot of love. They also really were intrigued by the chocolate milk guy. So the other comment that got a ton of likes, 169 likes, nice, said, "I already want chocolate milk guy to go."
To go, but he provides such, like, fantastic dietary advice.
To go, should have specified. No, another comment: chocolate milk guy will be the first voted out. And I went to the comments on the video that's the 48, teaser. Right. All of them are about 47, except for about chocolate milk guy. Like, he's the only one that stood out about 48.
Yeah, I don't know. Any of you have some spare thoughts about the 48 very unique teaser we saw at the end of the 47 after show?
I think so often the sort of, like, crazy one-liner means nothing to the, like, what ends up happening. So I bold prediction: chocolate milk guy makes it to the jury. How about that? At least.
I love it.
Yeah. So brave.
Yes, thank you.
Yeah, so brave of you.
Yes. I've actually been drinking chocolate milk this whole time. Just
whoa!
You're prepping.
I've seen your muscle mass swell. I just haven't brought it up.
Yeah, thank you. Yes, in real time.
Getting swole.
Yeah, I mean, listen, I will not Sol. I will. You can't spell swell without SOL. How did we not come up with that over the course of 14 years of this season? Listen, I will not say too much, but what I will say is I'm very excited for you all to meet the cast of Survivor 48. They are a very fun bunch. I had a very fun time talking with them, including Chocolate Milk Guy, including many different individuals, both, new faces and maybe one that has been talked about in the past. But we will talk about that all in 2025. And here we are to send off 2024. This was such a fun time. I mean, I really thought that, bye. I think that this was a very, very solid season of Survivor. Like, I think this was, and I think the word that's been used to describe a lot of it is consistency. And I still think it's one of the best pre-merges we've had in the new era. I think we obviously had a very big winner. I think that there's been some really fun blind slides along the way. It was just very consistent quality throughout that I absolutely adore, between all the cast, what they were able to bring in their very unique perspectives, some of these wild moves that ended up happening, some of these rivalries that developed. Again, 46 was a tough act to follow, and in some ways it deviated from just that incredibly unique season, but I had such a fun time getting to watch this. And Liana, I had, as per usual, such a fun time getting to talk about all the nonsense with you every single week here on the B&B.
Thank y'all. Yeah, it was
I
fun.
loved
I mean,
listening. Go ahead.
Yeah.
Yay!
And I helped.
And I was also there. Yeah, I mean, longest runtime season, but 48, I'm hyped. So let's see what it's got in store.
Well, Dave, thank you for joining us. I know it's been a hell of a fall for you, especially, but hopefully ending it on a bit of a high note for you. As we do every week on the B&B, we do our guests the honor of having the ability to plug a charity or a cause that is important to them, especially this time of year, the holiday season. People are in the spirit of giving. We're but 2 days away from Chris Underwood Miss. So what charity or cause do you want to highlight to the listeners out there?
Well, so devoted TikTok fans may know, not Mike, that
obviously poser.
I'll get TikTok in the new year.
No, you don't have to because we're on YouTube Shorts, and that's and we're doing very well on YouTube Shorts as Washington Post Universe. We just rebranded across so it wasn't called Washington Post TikTok on YouTube. Anyway, about a year ago, after we had our baby daughter, my wife and I moved to Kansas City, where I'm originally from. And it's been really nice being here. And part of that is getting to meet people from high school or see people from high school whatever. And a friend of mine runs this organization called Lead to Read Kansas City. So it's all about literacy in Kansas City. They raise the money for books for schools that may not be able to afford them, for people that may not be able to afford them. They have the deals with authors that come in and read their own books. It's really awesome. I got to see it firsthand with our daycare, where we had an author of a children's book read it live to my daughter. It was amazing. So Lead to Read KC. It's really great, and the person who runs it's awesome too. So that's my pitch to you and to people who want to come to Kansas City. Come by. I'll show you the best barbecue.
Yes. Oh, no, I like this pitch as well. I will be your charity. I will show you around this great city of mine.
Yeah, I did it for Owen Knight a couple months ago. He loved it. And yeah, so I have reviews already in 5 stars for my tour of Kansas City.
All right. Well, Dave, I know that your dance card will be very full once people start just flooding into Kansas City in the new year with that offer that you provided. But you have a lot of stuff going on, of course, out there on social media, both on TikTok and apparently YouTube. So what would you like to plug out there for the listeners?
I remember last time you're like, what do you want to plug? I was like, I'm still making TikToks. It's great. But this time I really have something. I worked out this deal with the Post where I can start my own YouTube channel in addition to what I'm doing. And it's going to be like my own actual weekly series. Our goal is to one day be something to the sort of equivalent of what Daily Show was in the early 2000s of hey, what's this crazy new show on Comedy Central? Now we're trying to do that for YouTube. So I'm going to have a weekly show in the new year. I'm really excited. I'm scared, but in a good scared, nervous. And I'm actually, honestly, I don't have to say this, but I'm very grateful to the Post for letting me do it. It's kind of wild. It's kind of a first time deal that they're allowing someone to it's like how Bob Woodward writes a book every year. It's kind of like that, where I just get to go do my own channel on top of this. So I'm really excited about that. And I've been writing a book that is about kind of this world of media, like people like yourself, Mr. Bloom, where the sort of smaller media voices are becoming the people that are trusted more than places where I work, like the Washington Post. That's just a lot of polling. I got to interview Rob for it. He was very gracious to spend some time.
Cool.
We're at the book is out. The proposal's out, so we're hoping to get that picked up soon. But I have a really great agent for that, so I'm excited. All these things happening next year. Yeah.
Oh my god, this is gonna be 2025 is gonna be awesome.
I am really pumped. If I can't get on Survivor, at least I'll just do everything else possible.
You build up a resume so you can literally say, all right, Jeff, look what I was able to accomplish while waiting for you to say yes.
Yeah, people talk about their on-island resumes. I'm just trying to get one to get Jeff's attention. But no, it's a very exciting new year, and so I hope that was a good plug. I feel like I finally.
Oh my god! Congratulations! That's so many fantastic irons in the fire.
Yes.
Liana, it's going to be a couple months before you and I get back together for Survivor 48. And I know that you have some other reality shows that you'll be covering in the interim. What do you want to plug?
That's right. It might be a Giannis from Survivor, but Drag Race will be back in full force on January 3rd. So we will be back for the Drag Race feed covering that. Beth Amon and I will getting together to talk about everything from season 17. Oh my God, 17. I'm also going to be guesting on the 90 Day Fiancé podcast to talk about everything going on before the 90 days. And then I will give a little bit of a, now it's formalized to a certain extent. Puya and I are going to be back in the new year with a new project. We're going to be premiering. Look out for all the promo material we're going to be doing in sort of mid-January-ish is going to be our first release date. So I don't want to give away anything too much, but subscribe to the Masked Singer feed. We're actually going to be converting it into the new podcast feed. So if you want to follow that, we'll release, a couple episodes in the main feed or RHAP ups to sort of bring some traffic in. But I think you're going to be pleasantly surprised, and it will be on YouTube as well. So
okay. 2025 is just such a fun year for
I
everybody.
know.
That's so exciting. So you can check out the interviews I did with the final four of Survivor 47. They're just such a great group of people, and I thought I had some really great conversations with them, especially after the day after their big brouhaha in real life celebration where they got to screen the finale in LA, which just seemed like such a fantastic time for the group to come back together. I got the chance to talk with them all, though obviously breaking down the final results, everything that happened leading up to it. Check those out if you haven't already. From a podcast perspective, taking a little bit of a break on Battlestar Galactica, but I'm still covering Silo. And if you hear that chanting voice in the background, we're but a few days away from Squid Game season 2. And so I am coming at you daily with Squid Game season 2 recaps. It'll be myself and Chappelle coming at you every day for 7 days. It's a several day project, a several episode season of Squid Game season 2. If you want to be a part of it, watch an episode, stop down, check out the podcast, and then keep going. It's very fun, especially getting to tackle this from the reality TV angle of it all, and also considering that we had a literal reality TV about the Squid Game since last time that we watched it. So be sure to check that out. Of course, Rob and I will do our usual year-end best of 2024 brand steal. I did put out a call on social media. I'm still accepting submissions for that over the next few days. So if people want to put out all the various weird shit that happened in 2024 for us to possibly put into a brand steal, please let us know. And then in the new year, there might be another project coming from yours truly as well. In addition to, once the cast drops for 48, I will have my interviews out in the preseason that allows all of us to make such bold claims as we do in the preseason. I had a very fun time out there getting to talk with the cast of 48. I cannot wait for all of you to check it out. And I'm sure plenty of more stuff going on in the interim, but just check out everything I'm doing at a Mike Bloom type. And I really do mean it. If you want me to create a laundry list introduction of you and all your accomplishments, I am a cheap date. I will do anything and everything. I'll even wear a silly costume while I do it along the way. But for now, I will take off this costume, the B&B costume, as it were, hang it up for a couple months. Thanks to everybody for checking this out. Again, I still cannot believe every time we get to do a live show or I get DMs from people saying that they listen to the B&B. We've been doing this for over 10 seasons at this point. It's ridiculously stupid fun. And I'm always so grateful to those that are able to check it out and not only stay tuned for the malarkey, but sometimes bathe in it like the mud that births them into this game. Shout outs to our guests this season. We had Gabby, we had Josh Wigler, we had Jenny Autumn, we had Beth Dixon, we had Brandon and Brando, we had Matt Ligori and Scally, the free agents, we had Frail Mary, we had Kevin Jacobs, Peridium, Shannon Gus, we had Dwight, Mari, Omer, and Lindsay, and then, of course, Dave for coming on and bringing all of your fantastic opinions all season long. Cannot wait to do it again in a couple months. And, of course, last but not least, special thanks to everyone behind the scenes at RHAP for packaging this podcast for your eyes and ears. Will from America for his fantastic theme song. And to Rob for, building this B&B for us in the first place. We've been making it over every single season, and this time I think we're going to try to get that chocolate milk sponsorship. Just put it in every guest room so that they go through as buff as possible to take on 2025. Exactly. We all know we're going to need it. So I hope everyone has very happy holidays. We will be back in the new year talking Survivor 48. Be sure to drink your Ovaltine. And until next time, everybody, we'll check you out at your next day.